Hello world, welcome to the 68th Climate Change Emergency Awareness Protest. I'm here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. I'm inside the chicken coop area again, broadcasting from home because we're on basically home sequester because you don't want to venture out into public and catch the coronavirus, which is starting to run rampant in Pennsylvania here in the USA. Today's March 27th, and this is number 68, the climate change emergency protest. Next week, hopefully, if none of us get sick, will be April 3rd for the 69th climate change emergency awareness protest. So, President Trump, I hate saying that name, President and Trump together, but that's the way it is determined to say that people need to pack churches on April 12th for Easter. And to celebrate Easter, and he thinks it'd be a great thing if everyone packed the churches and celebrated and the end of coronavirus. And he's absolutely delusional, and his actions actually influence a lot of those who are uninformed or feeble-minded or evangelical types, and they think they can solve things by celebrating religious outlooks. And what he's doing is, proposing a death sentence for the United States. This is basically going to be an atomic bomb of coronavirus spreading throughout the United States if he succeeds. And thousands of people pack individual churches throughout the whole country. They'll go home and spread the disease everywhere. And eventually it ends up going around the world even worse. So this could be the death knell for the United States if he succeeds in his continued pursuit of saying about celebrate Easter on April 12th. Presently, it's actually criminal what he's doing, and, in my opinion, he should be removed from office for proposing such things. The guy's truly delusional in what he's saying, and I'll talk a little bit about that and about the bailout and all. Presently, the United States has 85,000 plus coronavirus cases, and that's number one in the world. We blew past Italy and China yesterday. And here in Pennsylvania, it went from, I think, 168 last week. Now we're at 1,700. And I expect today we'll probably cross the 2,000 barrier, if not the 2,500 barrier. So it's not a good situation. And, the only reason it's going up so slow, comparatively speaking, as to what it could be doing, is because many, many, many of us are staying at home and staying away from others in public. Otherwise, I think sick at this point. It would have gone like just craziness, and it would have spread everywhere. And in 2 weeks after that, millions of people would be dying. So that's my whole thing about Trump. Theoretically, if people go to church in different places around the world, millions of people will die a couple weeks later. But whatever. April 12th, probably, that he's proposing will probably be the start of the peak, the severe part of the coronavirus here in the United States. And we're basically way ahead of Italy and China as far as the steepness of the infection rate. The bailout that the Congress has proposed to pass the Senate so far, and it's going to go in front of the House of Representatives, gives individuals $1,200 one time only, whereas Canada is giving individuals $8,000 over 4 months, $2,000 a month. So $1,200 one time only for people in the United States. If you calculate it out, ends up being, if you're working a job, it'd be $8 an hour, 40 hours a week, 4 weeks. And that's all we're worth. It's more important that we get back to work in these people's eyes than we actually stay at home and get taken care of and make sure that we don't spread the illness. So what's going to happen is that people will run out of money probably in May or June. And, then you're going to have a real situation on your hands as to, whether to allow people to remain at home or companies don't send out bills or something. Because you can't run an economy and have people at home and trying to be secure and safe. And you can't run an economy if people are at work and then getting sick everywhere. So, this is a rock and a hard place, and there's some tough decisions to be made, even though I don't think it's very tough. You support the people now, and then when the time comes to it, and we can handle the situation, and possible vaccines and or just the virus died off due to UV radiation from the sun, which will increase over the summer. Possibly the virus would abate somewhat, but these guys are hell-bent on sending us back to work, and it's a death sentence. And a lot of companies won't tolerate people skipping work, and they'll just fire them. And then you're going to end up with a social unrest situation, and things could really spill out of control very easily. In this country, everyone has guns, everyone has trucks, and da-da-da-da-da. And it could get ugly if people are less civilized-minded, want to take what's theirs and don't care about anyone else. So it's a scary situation that could develop, and the government needs to get ahead of this situation and actually make the people feel secure and safe, and they're doing the right thing by staying at home. But right now, these people have their heads up their tuchus, and it's not a good situation. Say the bailout, individuals get one-time shot, $1,200, whoopee. People on unemployment compensation will get an extension for 8 weeks, and then that's it after that. The corporations, meanwhile, are getting, after you factor out all the billions of dollars going to hospitals and whatnot for masks and good things, corporations are going to end up with $425 billion at the end of the $2 billion, if you have $2 trillion bailout amounts. So $425 billion for corporations. But what no one knows, and this is a big secret, is that they can leverage 10 times that amount. So your $425 billion package given to the corporations can actually be $4.25 trillion. And the taxpayers are going to be on the hook for that. If they fold or they don't want to pay it back or whatever, then you got an economy that also is tanked. So right now the corporations are getting a boondoggle of a bailout, and the people around here and everywhere else seem to think that the Democrats and Republicans are on their side. Yes, the Democrats fought the Republicans concerning make it more than just the corporations, this whole bailout package. But all in all, the corporation is still going to get a boondoggle out of this. You got corporations like Amazon and Boeing that don't need any bailout, but they're just going to get free money and do whatever they want with it. Amazon for 2018 paid zero in taxes. They made billions of dollars and they paid zero in taxes for 2018. So go figure that one out. So what the hell, help those people out. Meanwhile, you and I and everyone else are paying 32% or 25% of their income towards taxes. And what do we get out of it? Swift kick in the pants and told you to get back to work. So there are these hoops you have to jump through. You can't make more than a certain amount of money to get the bailout, and you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't, Meanwhile, the corporations are carte blanche, being given an absolute grant and a fun time to shift money around and do whatever they want, play games, and it's not a good situation. And people are luckily uninformed, because I think at this point people would be up in arms if they knew what was happening, or they just shrug their shoulders, as Americans have done lately, and really don't care, and think as long as they're happy for 1 month, everything's fine and peachy keen. So as I said, we're at 85,000 people right now, and climbing very quickly as to how many have the coronavirus. Now, it comes down to whether your government is all about the economy or your life. And I think it's becoming very apparent that they're more concerned about the economy and the stock market, as our leader keeps talking about. He never talks about lives and individuals and saving lives and keeping people happy. He wants an immediate end to this, because he's kicking his feet like a spoiled little child, saying he wants people back to work. And it doesn't work that way. You're going to have to relax, take time, and make sure everyone's okay. So right now you have the superheroes in our country and around the world are the medics and the doctors and nurses and the EMTs that take care of the people. And they're given piss poor equipment because we fell asleep at the switch. We, as in the government and leaders, fell asleep because they had ample warning in February. I posted in February that this thing was coming, and I actually wrote letters to my friends and neighbors and relatives that you need to get your affairs in order, and also get to the stores and you start stocking up, because this was coming down. But I was in a variety of different ways, called different names, but that's okay. That's the way it is. I took care of what I needed to take care of. So your doctors and lawyers are putting doctors and nurses and EMTs are putting their lives in jeopardy because they don't have enough masks, they don't have enough ventilators, and they're reusing masks and their gowns and everything else, spreading the viruses throughout the hospitals, but they can't do anything about that. And they're putting their lives in jeopardy. Then they go home and put their own kids' and families' lives in jeopardy as well. So they're really commended as to how brave they are for what they're doing. And, shame on the government for not taking care of this and seeing this ahead of time. They should have had stockpiles. Our illustrious leader got rid of the pandemic panel back in 2017 or 18. And there is no early warning. He got rid of, cut down on the FEMA amount too, as far as how much they were funded. So you have no emergency groups that could give ample warning about this. So if he had any brains, he would have relied on individual nut jobs like myself that actually go on the internet and pay attention to what's happening around the world. And I knew this in February, as did many others, that this was going to spread around the world. So here we are. So as I said, Pennsylvania went from 185 cases last Thursday. Now we're up to 1,687. So if that gives you an idea of where things are going, and this is even while people are being sequestered at home. I can't imagine how bad it would have been if we had not been at home. It would have been devastating, and it still is devastating, but it is what it is. You have another concern that no one's talking about is nuclear facilities. What if the people in charge of nuclear facilities, the workers, get sick and they don't go into work? Is there a provision there to shut down a nuclear facility, or does it go China syndrome? There's a whole ball of wax involved with everything. And I don't know if it's being considered by the government. My guess is it is not, based on their past performance on everything. Basically, this is a climate change warm-up as to what's happening with the coronavirus. You're going to end up with food insecurity, social unrest, collapse of civilization, basically, if they don't get on top of this thing. And they're letting this opportunity pass right now. Right now, the economy's down. They could retool everything. They could say to all construction workers, you're going to work on renewable energy projects. Again, the Tesla Tower is another thing to look into. Solar, wind, anything. You need minds to get together and to think up different ideas while everyone's off. And then when people come back online, you could actually, get a lot of good things going. Higher miles per gallon for cars, such as hybrids. You combine oil or gasoline and electric, or just pure electric cars. You could work on the grid, new wires, everything set up, bury wires underground, which would last longer. Whole bunch of things, and that's why you need people to get together, come up with ideas. But this government's all about getting back to work, doing the same process all over again, and we're going to end up in the same situation when the next pandemic, or inevitably when climate change starts hitting in full force. Right now you have a heat wave starting up in the southern U.S. It's going to be pushing 80, 90, 100 degrees in much of the southern U.S. for the next couple days. You have the Arctic Ocean, where the sea ice is diving off, and it looks like it's ready to go lower than it ever has been. It's heading that way if you look at the graphs. You also have way up in the atmosphere, you have the polar jet stream, which it's called a polar jet, but it's a circular jet that usually hangs way up in the atmosphere, and it just usually revolves around the North Pole, which has been the coldest place on Earth. Now it seems to have shifted 17 degrees further towards Greenland, which doesn't sound like much, but a 17-degree shift in any jet stream will eventually, I think, cause a disruption in the growing environment as far as farms and ability to produce food. I hope an expert puts out a video as to what their feelings are about this, whether it's nothing or whether it's something very significant. Paul Beckwith had put out a video about it 2 years ago, and hopefully he'll put something out, because I really trust what he's saying, and he's a really good teacher. So that's Paul Beckwith on YouTube. Experts need to see, as I said, if this is permanent or not. Right now you have floods in Yemen, which are really severe, but we're too busy funding the Saudi Arabians who are killing the Yemenis to get this news out. And not only being starved to death, now they're being flooded out. You have the Thwaites Glacier in Antarctica, which could be termed as being a doomsday glacier, in that if it breaks off, it causes sea level to rise somewhere around a half a meter, 2 feet, 2.5 feet, somewhere in there. But what it does, if it disappears and falls into the ocean, then it unleashes the ability of all the other glaciers in the surrounding area to fall into the ocean as well. And if they start going in the ocean, the sea levels will rise 10 feet. So that would wipe out most coastal cities and destroy Bangladesh, and other countries, island nations would be underwater. So we really got to start paying attention to climate change, and no action is being taken right now, of course, because they got their heads wrapped around this coronavirus, which is it's understandable. But you need a separate panel that is actually attacking this climate change issue, independent of the coronavirus issue. And right now, that's not being done by any government, and they're ignoring climate change, and there's going to be hell to pay for this one too, as well. and everyone would be surprised when it starts happening in earnest. If you're already being affected, it's already happening in earnest, but eventually the whole world will feel the pain of climate change. We need leaders who recognize the problem. Leaders who can actually think about things, and that doesn't mean keep hiring career politicians. That means putting people in charge of organizations that actually know what's happening, science-based people who paid attention to history, people who have their pulse on the internet and as far as what's happening around the world. As Extinction Rebellion says, as I said before, they need to the leaders need to tell the truth, the politicians and the media, as to what's happening. And evidently the mainstream media here or anywhere else does not report the truth. They're owned by separate families that have a definite stake in the whole issue about not getting the information out, which is kind of convoluted thinking, because eventually they and their families and their empires will be affected as well by climate change. So you need the truth to be told. You need immediate action by the governments to control the CO2 situation that's happening. Right now we're at 415 parts per million, which is the all-time high. We are briefly hit 416 this year, but we're going to keep going up in spite of this coronavirus and shutdown of production of CO2 because of lack of manufacturing. But we're still going up in carbon dioxide. So it's very, very disconcerting. And when eventually people start working again and the pollution starts going back into the air in earnest, we're going to have a real situation, much worse, and it's not a good thing. So need to tell the truth, need to reduce CO2, and then we need citizens' assemblies, which is a bunch of people getting together. And as you know, when you have friends get together, you talk about issues, and you get better answers than one-on-one or two people or four people together. You come up with really excellent ideas as to what's happening. And that's the problem with Donald Trump, is that he thinks he's the sole answer to everything. He doesn't consult with others. He thinks he's the smartest person on earth, which he obviously is not. But the mark of an idiot is also not listening to others who have ideas, and you can adapt them and come up with even better ideas than you could by yourself. So we need a citizens' assembly where people actually get together and are consulted by the government as to incorporate the ideas that they come up with. So that's all I got to say about that. Next week is April 3rd for the Climate Change Awareness Rally, and hopefully, I'll be around and Tanya will be here and won't have to worry about the coronavirus affecting us. But now it's day-to-day, week-to-week thing, and it's kind of scary, as I'm sure you guys are kind of a little wary as to what's happening. So hopefully you all will stay safe and healthy. My friends in Europe, Asia, and Africa, hang in there. I'm thinking of you too, and also Australia. See you later. Bye.